And we are live. Hi, I'm attorney James Betzold. I am joined today by co-founder of PrimaFacie, PrimaFacieNow.com. His name is Jake Betzold.
Good afternoon, brother.
All right, I'm going to turn that music off. Let's see if that actually works out. All right, so we have a fun topic today. We are going to talk a little bit about, growing your business during challenging times. Now, why do we call this growing during challenging times? For some people, it's probably like how to just survive and not have to close your doors during challenging times. But the fact of the matter is, whether you are just trying to survive or whether you are needing to grow while there's a huge social disruption going on, there are some things you can do to help that happen. So let's see here. Any questions at the get-go, Jake? I've got sort of three topics in mind. Anything immediately come to mind for you? You can say no if you want to.
Nothing yet, but I'll come up with some good ones.
Okay. So here we go. First thing I was thinking about. So at least in our law firm, one thing that we've done is we went through and are still reviewing all of our closed and current cases. So any case that's pending or anything that's closed is something that we're actively taking a look at so that we can do a number of things. One, just reach out to our clients, let them know that everything's okay. Let them know if there's any updates we have on their case or on immigration in general, which might make it a good time for them to do something, or whether they should just keep sitting tight. A lot of times there's waiting in these cases. For some people, if they've obtained their residency and 3 or 5 years have gone by, there may be an opportunity then for them to file for citizenship. So you can help them with that. And even if it doesn't turn into a case that you actually handle for them, it sort of builds that goodwill in the community. One of the most important things you can do while waiting out a pandemic like this is continue to build that goodwill. And we'll talk about that in a little bit when it comes sort of to marketing. But that's the first thing I wanted to go over, is just review all your closed and pending files. You may find some additional work that needs to be done or that could be done now because, as we know, the law changes from time to time. And when immigration law changes, it can affect cases that you currently have or that you've already closed and may not be thinking about anymore. It can also affect, all sorts of stuff. All right, let's move along. When you communicate with your clients, you could be adding them to a newsletter. So you could be giving them something new to do, giving them something new to read, providing some sort of content for them so that they remember what great service you gave to them when they were your client. You can even go through all of your old files for people who merely did a consultation with you. How impressive might it be for them if they get a call out of the blue from you saying, hey, we were thinking about your case, just reviewing some things. I had a couple other thoughts I wanted to share with you. Here's something you can look at. Have a nice day. And naturally, that can generate some word of mouth and can generate some buzz for you as well. So you can start getting some even referrals during dangerous times. All right, so you can look at your old files. That's fine and dandy. Everybody has fun doing that. What's something else we can do? You can learn about other case types or practice areas. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but in a time of a pandemic and when the president is nonstop sending out notices about how we're going to shut down immigration for 60 days, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it may not be very favorable, find a way to challenge it. That is a real opportunity. So, Jake, did I tell you about any of these cases I've taken recently?
No, but I'm curious what types of cases that either, that you have taken, or types of cases that you would recommend that might be an easy adjacent move.
Yeah, there's so many. Just because immigration tends to touch so many different areas. Many practitioners already they do immigration, but maybe they've also done some criminal defense or some family law stuff as well. But one thing that we found recently that was really fun to dig into. Let me see if I have. I don't have my book here, do I? I don't have the book with me, so I can't plug it. But federal court, man. We like federal court. So when the government does something that's very inconvenient, or if they're delaying a case, or there's all these different reasons, you can actually sue the federal government, sue the Department of Immigration or Department of Homeland Security, USCIS, the State Department. You can sue them when things aren't going well enough, or when they've just gone completely wrong. And there's a few different laws that you can sue under. So something to look into for immigration practitioners is just getting admitted to your local federal court. And also, here's like a super pro tip. Right now, because of the pandemic, the federal district court in Washington, D.C., they typically require you to show up in person for a swearing-in ceremony to get admitted to the court there so you can file cases in the D.C. district court. But because of the pandemic, they're waiving that requirement. So essentially, you send in your paperwork, you pay the fee, and they have a magistrate judge look at it, and I'll let you know in a couple days if it all works out as we think it will. But you actually don't have to physically show up to get admitted to court there. And the nice thing about being admitted both to your local federal district court, so for us, it's here in West Michigan, or you could go to the Eastern District in Detroit. But being admitted in D.C. allows you to sue any part of the federal government for a client who's anywhere in the U.S. So if you have a client who's out in California or down in Florida or in Louisiana, and you've got one of these cases that you want to bring, you don't need to go get admitted to all these other different courts as well. As long as you're admitted at the federal district court in D.C., you file your case there. So that brings some efficiency and economies to your caseload as well. But that's really important, actually. So look into federal court. And I can tell you a little bit about some of the federal court cases we've recently taken. There's a statute called the Administrative Procedure Act. So it governs what the different executive and federal agencies, how they operate. And one of the things that law requires is that they don't unreasonably delay a case. If they unreasonably delay a case, that's a reason you can go and sue them. They also are not permitted to make what's called arbitrary or capricious decisions. So if you get a decision and there's just really no reasoning, or maybe you should have been perfectly qualified, but they denied it anyway, you can go and you can say, Judge, look, they're just being arbitrary now, and that's mean, and that's therefore not allowed. Or one of the things that led to a bunch of challenges for DACA is just the fact that you have to go through a regulatory procedure when you do certain things. So if you want an agency to change their policy and do this other thing, you have to post it for public comment. You have to do these waiting periods, and you've got to respond to the public comments before it can actually be published and become law. Or not, it's law. It's a federal regulation until it becomes an active federal regulation.
Have you ever sued the government?
Yeah. So I was about to tell you this one case we recently took. We had a couple of plaintiffs, and they had filed for what's called a U visa. So it's a visa for victims of crime. Well, back when we filed it, it was pretty typical that the government within 6 to 8 months would send you a letter saying, hey, we looked at your case. It looks pretty good. There's no numbers available right now, but we're going to give you your work permit and deferred action while you're waiting for your visa to become available. That was back in 2015, late 2015. Well, what's happened since then is they stopped doing that. Instead, they're saying, just wait 5 years. We'll tell you in about 5 years, 54, 55 months, and then we'll give you an answer. That's just patently unreasonable. It doesn't take them that long to look at the case. It doesn't take them that long to open it up and say, yep, he meets the statutory requirements, because it's pretty black and white. You were a victim of a certain type of crime. The police signed off on it, or a law enforcement agency signed off on it, and you're going to suffer some sort of hardship if you have to leave the U.S. So it's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's not engineering. It's, do you meet these requirements? Anyway, so we sued, and we were able to obtain for them their work permit and their grant of deferred action while they're still waiting for the final decision on their visa itself. Now, I know, because these numbers are published, there are about 149,000 pending U visa cases right now. And many of them have been waiting since 2015, 2016, 2017. So I would say that those are all, again, unreasonable delays, and is something that you could remedy by filing a federal lawsuit and either encouraging them on their own to make a decision and provide those documents, or let it go all the way to the judge, who's going to have to look at it. And then it's actually, the burden is on the government to prove that it's not unreasonable a delay. So,
if somebody wants to pursue that, strategy similar to the way you did, any particular things that you'd recommend that they either, steps that they take or things that they watch out for?
Yeah, there's a lot. First of all, make sure that you read up. There's plenty of books out there. Not plenty of books. There's a few really good books. One by Robert Paw. It's published by AILA. And if you have a subscription to AILA Link, the online library, you have access to it there. But that's actually a really good resource for just sort of wrapping your head around what are these other types of cases that exist that I can take to federal court. So that's number one. And there's a lot of different types of cases you can actually take in federal court. I've mentioned these ones about unreasonable delays and things like that, but there's actually in the statute, in the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act, it talks about, like, there's a naturalization, a citizenship application has to be adjudicated within a certain amount of time. And the government has been putting a lot of people into what's called administrative processing, where they just sort of delay it with no end. So you could be in for 2 years just waiting. But if you go ahead and file one of these federal lawsuits, they all of a sudden are forced to do it right away, which is really nice. So there's those. There's, of course, whether, if there's a removal order that you think the judge was wrong on, the immigration judge or the Board of Immigration Appeals, you can ask for that to be reviewed in federal court as well. Typically, those you're looking at being in the Court of Appeals, the Federal Court of Appeals, not the Federal District Court. But another one, the habeas petition. So if you've got a client who's maybe detained and you want to get them out because there's a virus going through the prison or the jail right now, you can file that lawsuit in federal court and explain to the judge all the reasons that this person should be released from detention. So there's a lot. Yeah, definitely find some materials. Find some friends. There's nothing better than friends who know about this. So I can speak from my own experience. A number of months ago, I reached out to an attorney. I was doing some research on a case like this to find out if we were going to be able to file it and if it would go well. And I actually came across, I think it was like 12 or 18 cases identical to this that were all filed at the same time. I think it was in North or South Carolina. And you can actually search, federal databases or court databases to find out which of these cases have been filed and where and how many. And sure enough, it was the same attorney that had filed these, like, it's either 12 or 16 or 8, some huge number of cases all at once. So, they have his name. I looked him up. Turns out he's a friend on Facebook, a fellow immigration attorney, and he specializes in federal court work as well. His name is Bradley Benias. Super guy, very talented, very helpful. Actually spoke to me for over 45 minutes freely, just volunteering information about what to look out for in the case, sort of how to draft these things. overall strategy, things like that. So we've actually created a Facebook group now for attorneys. So if you're a licensed attorney, you can go ahead and find on Facebook. The group is called Federal Court Immigration Lawyers. And let me put that on the screen here. Let me see if I can. Federal Court Immigration Lawyers. If you are an attorney, you're on Facebook, friend me, and I will be happy to invite you to our group, where we actually have a database of sample documents, complaints, responses to motions, things like that we have access to, along with a list of other attorneys in the group, where they practice, what type of cases they handle, if they're willing to accept referrals or co-counsel on a case with you, which is also very helpful. So if you have a client that you need to file a case for and you're not admitted in that particular jurisdiction, usually if you have somebody who's there, you can either refer it to them or you can co-counsel on the case and get admitted pro hoc vice, so for this time only, to the case. All right, so yeah, so those are some things to look out for, and I think it's really helpful just to start looking at other areas of the law. And one thing that's really nice that a lot of immigration lawyers will probably appreciate is when you go to federal court, you're dealing with a prosecutor, a professional prosecutor, you're dealing with a judge, and immigration cases aren't the only kind of cases that they handle. They're actually very nice. They treat you nicely. They won't sit there and ridicule you, which does happen in immigration court. It's ridiculous. But you go to a real court, you're asking for real relief, and it can go well. Let's see here. Other types of cases you could look at. If you've ever, in law school, we all learn about the basics of like estate planning or family law or things like that. You can also go into that or maybe fire up that part of your practice again, although I don't know if it's going to depend on your local courts as well, whether they're open to hearing these types of cases. There's a lot of cases that just aren't being heard at all, depending on where you live. Back to the federal court litigation. Do you know what a FOIA is, Jake?
Yes, Freedom of Information Act request.
Yeah. So as immigration attorneys, we file those routinely just to get a copy of our client's file to see like what happened in their history or in their past. Because sometimes their memory fails or it was just a long time ago. Well, there's actually statutorily mandated response times, which immigration routinely blows. Like they go right by, they're like, oh, we need more time. And then they miss it. They miss a deadline. And then your client's just there waiting. So I pointed out the fact that the DC circuit is available for admitting attorneys without actually showing up now. And there was one who was actually like, oh, you know what? I want to take more FOIA litigation. This is a great time. So he also signed up to get admitted to the DC circuit as well. So that's fun to see. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about marketing for a little bit. Why is it important to keep marketing during a time of crisis? Any historical thoughts or references, Jake?
The only thought is when things go back to normal or significantly change, you just want to make sure that when someone needs your services that they think of you. So, out of sight, out of mind. If they're not seeing you, they're not going to be thinking about you.
Yeah. So I know I just brought you into this. I really called you up and said, hey, let's do this. It'll be fun. But I want to know from your brain, because you are co-founder of PrimaFacie and we have a little bit of experience in this, what are some social media or marketing or what are some things that, and not just an attorney, but really at this point, this is applicable to any business owner. What's something that business owners right now can do to make sure that when the pandemic's over, potential customers still remember who we are?
I think as a general rule of thumb, as a business owner, as an attorney, you want to be, consistently adding value for your clients. So you want to be providing them. Today to today, but I think also in most times the information that you provide them can be valuable, right? And if you're able to provide them something that's useful, then it's going to be beneficial, and they're going to appreciate that. So thinking about your clients and what is important to them, there's obviously a lot of things that we have in common now with this pandemic situation. And if you're finding things that are truly helpful to you, then I would highly recommend, finding meaningful ways to share those with your clients without being overbearing.
Yeah, I think overbearing is the key. I mean, because a lot of times people are going through enough right now. I know your wife deals somewhat in the field of like counseling and emotional health. I mean, have you guys seen anything like, even if it's just in the news or reports or community or maybe in a family, where people are having a hard time just knowing that if they step outside or go into the public, go to the store, they could touch something that gives them the coronavirus?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with regards to the pandemic, there's also a lot of misinformation and disinformation that is out there, in the media and on Facebook. And there's a lot of people that are just using, fear to push whatever agenda that they might have. So if you can find, I mean, I think you want to be careful to not be, politically biased in the content that you're sharing. But there's some things that I think are common. Anytime people are sharing like truly good news, like good, positive things that are happening in communities, ways that people are helping others or serving others, those are all very helpful. There's an actor by the name of, his name slips my mind, but he plays Jim Halpert in The Office, and he has started to do this thing called Some Good News, where he just puts together these different good news things, and he's actually brought a few celebrities to just do some very nice things for other people. So it's not something. It is something that anybody who watches it, as long as they're a thinking, breathing, have a heartbeat type of person, then they're probably going to enjoy that type of news. And I think sharing good news like that, sharing things that are out there that are positive like that, and that demonstrate that people are generally good, I think are good ways to connect.
Boy, I think you're right. I mean, because if you look at the typical news, like sometimes I will talk to my Alexa and I will say, Alexa, tell me the news. And it's nothing except the coronavirus. Yeah, see, here's the news. Alexa, stop.
In Fox News.
No, I don't want Fox News. Alexa, stop. Stop! I don't want it. In fact, let's unplug that now. So you hear things about like, oh, there's protests and people are angry and president's angry, and then these people are liars and the whole thing's made up, and then no, it's all real and we're all going to die, and then no, it's not real. It's just like nonstop chaos. So I think John Krasinski, that's his name, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, who, by the way, also plays a pretty good Jack Ryan in the reboot of Tom Clancy's. It's just called Jack Ryan. This is character Jack Ryan, who was in all Tom Clancy's novels. It's on Amazon. Have you seen it?
We've watched a few episodes. Yep.
Okay, well, season 2 is out. So, did you see season 2 yet?
Nope.
Okay, me either. We're gonna do that, and then we can talk about it.
Nice.
Yeah, John Krasinski. So, just some good news, because there's plenty of good news out there. I think a lot of that, on that negativity and that stuff, can contribute to, I mean, sort of your own panicking, or sort of brooding about, oh man, I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna do this, I'm not gonna have any clients, business is gonna really slow down, what am I gonna do, how will I survive? So you definitely want to keep a good environment, and one way to do that is just remembering the good news out there. I think the other thing you could do is really just like look for a way to serve someone. It helps you sort of get out of your own head and contribute to the betterment of society one way or another, as well. I see posts every now and then about people, I'm burned out, especially immigration lawyers, because sometimes it can feel like an uphill battle. But I think it applies to anyone in any job. You hit it hard enough for long enough and feel enough setbacks, you're probably going to start feeling a little burned out. So just maintaining a balance and finding a way to serve other people in a selfless way. Maybe in a way that's unrelated to your work, maybe in a way that is related, just however you can imagine to do that.
Yeah, I would say too, especially in these times of, uncertainty, there's I don't know if she's a clinical psychologist, but Brene Brown has a great TED Talk on worry and on vulnerability. And one of the things she mentions is, there's so many things that we can worry about, but the true antidote to worry is gratitude. So just remembering what are the things that, you're grateful for, and repeating those and sharing those are ways to help us calm down from all of the many, many things that we could be worried about.
All right. So thinking about something you said earlier, you said we should be finding ways to continue bringing value to customers. What are some ways that we can, any business owner, right? Especially a business owner in a business where you can't have people coming in your doors right now. What are some ways to maintain that connection?
Yeah, as mentioned, sharing information. So whether you can connect via Facebook, or if you have email lists or newsletters or things from your website, I think are all good ways to share share information, specifically as it relates to whatever the services that you're providing. If there are things that your clients can do for themselves, or that your customers could do for themselves, and they just need a tutorial, or if there are some specific DIY projects, things that keep it in context that they're currently living under whatever stay-at-home orders or certain restrictions, anything that fits within that you could provide that they might be able to use would be beneficial. And the more it connects with the services you provide, the better. But it doesn't necessarily have to directly relate. It can just be general, ways to deal with homeschooling your children, or whatever those things are that are common right now to so many people.
Yeah. And I think, to some degree, you want to avoid the clickbaity lines about the pandemic, the virus, the this, the crisis, the da-da-da-da. You want to just bring a ray of sunshine into someone's day instead, And of course, the title of this episode is Growing Your Business in Challenging Times. I purposely didn't use pandemic or crisis. It's a challenging time. It's not the first recession we've ever had. It's not the only recession there will ever be. It's probably the one that's come on the most sudden ever. But there's also reason to believe that once things normalize and things are sort of under control again, there could be a tremendous upside again. So it's important to be prepared for that. We've got another episode where we're going to talk about like some ways to prepare with technology and with just basic business practices. But really, like maintaining the connection with your customers, even during a pandemic, they'll remember, right? And sort of for immigration lawyers, it's a fear that most of us have at some point. Like, okay, if I make a video and I tell all my clients how they can file for citizenship themselves, if they have a straightforward case, well, then that could affect my bottom line. When the truth of the matter is, applying for citizenship in what I will call as an attorney, a straightforward case, no criminal history, no irregularities when you entered, no irregularities since entering and obtaining your residency, and and you speak English and all the questions. I mean, when you have something that's sort of straightforward like that, I think part of running a successful practice is knowing when to say, you need my help, and here's why. And also knowing when to say, if you feel confident with this, I think you could do it yourself. Here's go to the government website. You can file online, or you can print off the form. If you want me to review it, that's a different topic. But honestly, you have a doctorate and you fill out other forms for a living. So maybe you can handle this on your own. Because one of the common things, it's kind of funny, Jake, like one of the common things that'll happen during a consultation is a client will ask, do I really need an attorney for this? And as insulting as it might feel at the time and belittling as it might make me, it might make me feel kind of small, like, oh, I'm just doing this small thing for you, and yet you're here paying the consult fee to talk to me, and that's the first thing you're asking. Apart from that, there are many processes that are straightforward, and one of them is like whether it's renewing a green card or citizenship, but really you don't know what you don't know until you get nailed or hit with the unknown, right? So yeah, I think, definitely doing like the how-tos, or just 3 or 4 things you should know about this, 5 things you should know about this, 1 thing you could do to help avoid this. All of those things really don't take away from the experience you get or the clients that are going to come to your office. But it will help with the word of mouth. It'll help with getting your name out there, making sure that people remember you later, because they're going to say, oh, you know what? Now I want to bring my wife and kids to the United States. And I remember there was this attorney who had a really good video about this. I saw it. Well, I'm going to go look him up now. I know he was located in Michigan or Holland or whatever. And so that's one of those ways that you do that. And even if it's somebody who sees your video, as long as they're looking at the video, they're going to probably tell someone else about it. They might click the share icon or the little button on their newsfeed. So there's just all sorts of, great ways that you can reach out, especially for an immigration attorney, because all you have to do is go to uscis.gov, pick a topic, and cover it for a few minutes with your own personal experience built in. And I think that resonates with people. All right, so providing value. Oh, comfort and optimism. I think even if you do a video explaining to people why they don't need to freak out, I mean, there's plenty of sort of negative news outlets, not only in the English-speaking community, but in the Espanol-speaking community. Univision or Telemundo or one of these places where sometimes they'll run a story and it's wrong, and it causes a lot of panic, and all of a sudden we get a whole bunch of phone calls asking similar questions. But if you can be like the voice in the community that says, hey, I'm gonna put out a little video about this question we've been receiving. This isn't the case. You don't have to worry. You don't have to think about this or that. People are going to remember that as well. So just maintaining that connection. And there's, for immigration attorneys, there's almost unlimited free content that you can create or repurpose or use on your website or use in your social media feed or use in ads that you target your potential customers with. So there's all sorts of fun stuff to do there. My video didn't freeze. I was just standing very still. Okay, so what else? What are some other important things about marketing or advertising during challenging times? Anything else come to mind?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, that pretty much does it then. That's all I wanted to say. So we're going to post this online. We'll share it on our feed. Looks like we're up to, 33 minutes. So that's a good length. Give you something to listen to when you are working from home. I'm attorney James Betzold. I've been joined today by my co-founder and brother, Jake Betzold. We are the founders of PrimaFacie, which is immigration case management software. It is designed for immigration attorneys or the immigration services nonprofit organizations. You can find information on PrimaFacieNow.com. There's a free trial. And there's a good time, maybe your caseload could be a little lighter, there's a good time to check out what we have to offer. There's a lot of real cool tools that we've built over the last couple of years and have added those for everyone to use. Saves a lot of time, gives you a lot of extra efficiency. Again, find more at PrimaFacieNow.com. And thank you for joining us.